Welcome to the Age of Intelligence. I'm joined here in Austin, Texas. We are here at Embedded World North America. I'm joined today with Nakul Duggal. And Nakul, tell us about your role in the area of responsibility, because you actually have quite a bit of a expanded role now.
I do. Thank you for having me, and very nice to meet you. So I run the automotive, the industrial and embedded IoT, and the cloud business at Qualcomm. So 3 different businesses that have a lot that is similar, but a lot that is also very different. So super exciting time.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about how IoT and AI are joining forces. They're coming together, and there's a lot of change that's happening as a result of that. So as we enter into this new area of AI and industrial automation, how is Qualcomm working towards supporting the industrialized verticals and helping solve real-world problems?
So it's a big question, and I think it's a question that is really a fantastic opportunity for a company that has the DNA that Qualcomm does. You know, we've built a lot of expertise, we built a lot of scale as a company in being highly differentiated at being able to solve problems that live at the edge. Now, if you think about what is happening in the world of industrial applications, as you think about AI, we connected devices, we connected endpoints to each other, to the internet a long time ago. So
Right.
that problem was solved. The problem that is new is how do you bring intelligence all the way to the endpoint at a cost point that is highly affordable, that makes things very democratic, and how do you make the workflow ready for AI? How do you make the cloud, how do you make the CIO's job easier to where the CIO can now see what is going on all the way at the edge and be able to take action? That is what the focus of my new business is about. It's about being able to solve problem statements in a very democratic, very horizontal manner across many different industries, look for patterns that are similar, and then be able to work with ecosystem partners, customers to be able to go solve these problems. That's what we'll be talking about.
So essentially providing value to a range of industrial applications. So the value proposition is there, and Qualcomm's here to kind of enable that today. So I want to talk a little bit about the role of convergence and essentially AI and IoT kind of playing together and how they are impacting the future of industrialization as well as business continuity.
So, you know, I think I like to break the problem statement down into 2 parts. The first one is machine-to-machine applications.
Right.
If you have a sensor that is looking at the performance of an expensive piece of equipment, where it's very important to make sure that uptime is something that you know about, and you can make the sensor intelligent to where it is able to provide you trends, it's able to provide you an early warning. How do you now change your workflow to be able to make that part and parcel of the way that you manage your business? That is a very good example of how AI is converging with something that previously was deployed but required human inspection. Another very interesting use case is safety. In a lot of industrial applications, safety of the human is very important. You're dealing with equipment that can fail. You're dealing with equipment that where you need to be careful in terms of how you are present, how are you operating that equipment. You're training a new workforce.
Right.
How do you know if the workforce did actually get trained? That requires you to be able to have a tremendous amount of intelligence at the edge,
Right.
such that you are defining safety boundaries for the plant to be successful, the plant to be safe, insurance costs to be managed. So all of these use cases are very similar in nature, because when I think about being able to find convergence between what we do on a day in, day out basis in the products that we build and how those products apply to use cases that require safety to be central, that I think is the definition of how industrial IoT is evolving.
It's interesting because I'm hearing a lot more about safety. So when we think about factories and manufacturing facilities and even just any industrial plants, you know, you have OSHA, you have workers. So it's a great way to kind of put that into perspective. So Qualcomm supports, you know, the ecosystem around the intelligent edge. I want to learn a little bit more about, you know, your perspective there. and maybe share more about what this means, where Qualcomm's playing in the stack and enabling industrial applications.
So, we are an ecosystem company, and what I mean by that when I say ecosystem, because we touch so many technologies, we touch wireless, we touch 5G, we touch Wi-Fi,
Right.
we touch AI, we touch the phone ecosystem, the automotive ecosystem. By nature, we end up becoming this magnet for many different parts of the ecosystem converging to where they want to understand what technologies are we building, what products do they go into, what problems do they solve, and how does that help with the innovation, with the differentiation, with the evolution of our ecosystem partners. So what we take pride in is, let's go solve problem statements at the foundational level. Once you can go do that, the solutions have very broad applicability.
Right.
And our ecosystem partners, our customers see that and realize the importance of creating those solutions within their own lens, within their own world, and extending it to the, to their end verticals. And so this virtual cycle of being able to go look at these things from many different vantage points, I feel makes us extremely valuable.
So this is an exciting week at Embedded World. There's some really big announcements happening today. And so we'll see some press releases that go out, so be sure to look at those. So first we'll talk a little bit about what you guys are announcing at Embedded World North America. So let's talk about two of them. So first, let's start with the new industrial grade chips, or the system on chips, and maybe talk a little bit about that, and maybe you can walk us through these three new SoCs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, this is the event where we are talking about industrial intelligence. So, we are very happy to share a new family of IQ series processors, industrial by Qualcomm. And these are all processors that have a few characteristics that are quite unique. First of all, they are all AI-ready processors. The IQ9 has up to 100 TOPS of AI, and the IQ8 has up to 50 TOPS of AI. These are all safety-rated processors that are designed for ruggedized industrial environments. So these can be used in manufacturing environments, in oil and gas, in very extreme deployments. They are designed with a multi-purpose approach. So these processors are capable of graphics.
Okay.
They can support displays. They can support consumer-facing applications. They can support Gen AI. But they're also safety-grade processors that can run robotics applications.
Okay.
And the reason we have designed these processors with this fabric is that we are finding more and more that the big shift that is needed in the industrial environment is the ability to be able to bring applications and learnings from the consumer space, yet not lose the reliability, yet not lose the safety context within which you have to go deploy them. And this is something that we have been, as a company, focused on for a long time. So we bring an ecosystem of partners that have experiences on the hardware and the software side that can go deploy this. Alongside the IQ series, we have also deployed a solutions framework.
Yes.
So the solutions framework is very interesting because what we focus on more and more is what are the use cases that customers want to use our products for, and how do we make that simple, and how do we make that straightforward? How do we get them to focus on the things that they are really good at, and we demystify, we abstract the pieces that can be highly reused. So for example, the same solution framework applies across all three processors that we've built. The processors have different varying capabilities. That's where we want the customers to spend their time and attention. Independent of these two areas, we also recently concluded an asset acquisition of certain 4G LTE assets from Sequans.
Okay.
So that adds to our industrial connectivity portfolio, and we want to bring a lot of those products into a new class of devices and meters and sensors and trackers and actuators. So that also allows us to be able to have now a very broad portfolio on the industrial connectivity side.
So I noticed that the framework has a strong emphasis or focus on construction, factories, warehouses, substations, so the energy sector. And maybe talk a little bit more about how uptime, reliability, and the high temperatures plays into the need to have this. Like why are you really going into this industrial space? What's so important today?
Well, I think First of all, I think the industrial space is going through transformation because every industrial application has a variety of different considerations that every CEO and CTO of every industrial business cares about. Safety,
Yep.
productivity costs,
Yep.
collaboration, environmental impact. And one of the gaps that we've seen in the market is that there have not been intelligent application processor products available at the edge that meet the very trying requirements of the industrial nature of an application, but also provide the level of performance, the level of differentiation, the level of AI that you also need at the edge. So these products support multiple cameras. They can be put into a robot. They can be put into a surveillance system. They can be put at the edge to go monitor a specific situation. It can be sitting inside a drone. And we have done this with a lot of articulation because we know that the differentiation value is very significant for the types of problems that our customers are trying to solve. So the feedback has been fantastic, and the solution framework essentially brings the products to life.
So for the solutions framework, can you talk a little bit about how this really enables the developer community?
Yeah.
And what other ecosystem partners, vendors, hardware, software, like where does this really come into play and who's this really targeted towards? Like who's going to use this?
Yeah. So let me start off with AI, which is I think one of the primary differentiators of the IQ series. One thing that we announced earlier this year was our AI hub. Now,
Yes.
one of the big complexities in bringing AI to the edge is how do you bridge the gap between what the application needs and how the needs of the application are met by the processor where they actually need to reside.
Okay.
What the AI hub has been able to do is to be able to understand what is the hardware that is being used by the customer, understand the type of AI model that the application selects, and then makes that model optimized for deployment at the edge. So you pick your model of choice, you define your application. Let's say you are picking an application that requires computer vision to be central to the application. You pick that application, you pick your model. Once you have created your application, you deploy it, and the model will be optimized based upon the capability of the hardware. You can then optimize thereafter. The second part that we have done in the solutions framework is to be able to build microservices. So for example, if I want to be able to detect a specific scene where I would like the humans in the scene to avoid a specific area which is considered to be hazardous, how do you actually go about doing that? We can deploy a microservice that is independent of the hardware completely. It's so it's going to run within the application framework. This is something that allows us to be able to go make the usability of the chips very straightforward. We have a variety of different customers doing this. We have many different partners here that are demonstrating their applications, but I'll give you a good one. We announced a partnership with Aramco, the world's largest oil and gas company. And we looked at a variety of different use cases from safety, compliance, data analytics, connectivity. But then we started to work with Aramco's ecosystem, and one of their biggest ecosystem partners is Honeywell. Honeywell is a 100-year-old company based in the US and has been in industrial automation, in oil and gas, in retail for many, many decades. The partnership with someone like Honeywell is what pushes the envelope for us, because we have to live in their shoes. We have to understand the types of problems they're trying to solve. We have to give them products that make sense for them. And then we have to make all these use cases work.
Right.
So it's full circle. You come up with the IQ series, you think about the solutions framework, you think about someone like an Aramco and ask yourself, are we solving that problem?
Right.
And then you think about someone like a Honeywell as a partner, can we solve it with them?
Right. No, that makes sense. So when you think about, you mentioned the use cases, so can you explain how this is ready to deploy tech, right? And it supports an end-to-end solutions. I think that we often hear this is why there's a partnership ecosystem because of the end-to-end need.
I think it's a really good question. One thing that we have believed in a lot is that when you enter markets like this, you have to be able to work with customers who will teach you.
Yep.
Because these are complex problem statements where there is a tremendous amount, you have to measure many times before you cut, like they say. and we are big believers in that. And so, as you start to spend time with customers, what you learn is what are the problems that you have to be very careful about. What are the problems where you can afford to experiment, try something out. If it doesn't work, take a step back. And the solution framework that we have built allows us to be able to go do that. So, for example, our thinking about a lot of these problem statements is what is my primary path, what is my secondary path.
Yep.
If I can add a secondary path to a problem statement where I provide additional feedback, independent of the primary path, without touching the primary path, that improves the outcome. That allows me to be able to say, okay, there is something that I'm providing here that is new value. Could I add it to the primary path to also improve it without adding risk? So we do a lot of these things with input from experts, with input from customers, with input from partners. And once you understand that there is a solution that you can create, then it comes down to pattern matching. You say, okay, this worked in this specific area, why would it also not work somewhere else?
Yeah.
What would I have to do different in my solution, in my product to make that work? And that is the culture, that is the mindset that our teams are building. And frankly, we have to do it with our customers. It's not something that we can do by ourselves.
Right.
So we are doing this across many different verticals, frankly. And we pick certain verticals where we believe the problem statement is going to give us the maximum return on the time that we invest. Once we understand that, then we take it to other verticals.
I think it's quite refreshing because a lot of times when we work with technology vendors, they don't lead with an outcomes approach, and you guys are very much leading with an outcomes approach.
Absolutely.
And this is like very important. I know we'll talk a little bit more about the applications that are specific to things like health monitoring, smart sensors, drones, industrial automation. Maybe, and you mentioned the energy, Ramco partnership. Are there any other examples that you would want to share that might be something that you guys are looking at today?
There are so many. There are just so many. I mean, the best way that I like to kind of simplify is when you have machines that need to be more intelligent, and then when you have a human that is in the loop around machines. And that gives you kind of this expanse of problem statements that you can add intelligence to and find so many solutions for. I talk about 3 or 4 big mega trends. Safety, in my mind, is a very important megatrend because one is the human safety aspect, but then the other is just the safety of the operation. Are you operating at a level of safety compliance that makes sure that you keep your insurance costs down,
right,
you keep your workers safe, you maintain a very high bar for how you bring new processes in? How do you do that? How do you comply with that? What is the feedback loop that you have in the mix? Most of it comes down to, is your edge intelligent?
Yeah.
Do you have a real-time view of what is going on at the edge, and do you care? So when I say do you care, the underlying quote is, do your systems tell you what is going on at the edge? And it is very simply about, are your systems connected? Do they have a very good understanding of what the analog environment is within which your edge exists? Can they convert that to a digital footprint, fingerprint? And then bring the data back into your cloud and provide you the right analytics. I think it is something you can apply to pretty much any kind of end application, whether it's a building, whether it's healthcare, it's a hospital, it's a factory. So it's a very broad concept. And right. I think the term that you use, outcome-based, I think it is all outcome-based thinking.
So the big question is, where is the edge? Is it where the data is being collected? Is it an endpoint? Is it an asset? Or is it all of the above?
It's all of the above, and it almost always has to be the literal edge, because my way of thinking about it is the closer that you are to the raw analog world, the more raw, the more refined input you're going to receive in terms of what is going on. And then the question is, how much do you care? How important is it? Is it a binary yes or no?
Right.
Or is it something that you have to accumulate over a period of time and then look for into a trend around which you make a decision? Or is it a situation, for example, what a sensor has to do
right.
to detect a leak is very different than what a camera has to do to detect a threat.
Right.
And so these are all, in my mind, very simple analog situations in the real world around which you have to make a digital decision. In my mind, the edge always has to be all the way at the edge.
So the music is just cued, so we're going to end our chat. So
Awesome.
I want to talk a little bit about the peek into the future. So Qualcomm has these big announcements this week, and so while this will be launched next year, right? The official launch of the chipsets, right? What is on the agenda in the near term to kind of get us to that point before this big launch happens?
Yeah. So well, we are doing the soft launch for a lot of these chips already. They are in the hands of customers, and we are going to be, adding more and more capability and add more enablers into the portfolio. But to me, I think the big deal, the big reason to pay attention to Qualcomm is our approach to going after the industrial intelligence market is to really break this down to what does it mean for the end vertical? Why should someone listen to us?
Right.
And our approach is to be able to think about solutions that are trying to solve problems that we have spent a lot of time thinking through with partners, with end customers. And the solutions that we are building are curated. So they are things that we are doing with a lot of investment, a lot of time spent with the end verticals. And we are building things that scale within those verticals, but even across verticals in many areas.
That's the important part, is the scale, right? I think a lot of POCs, a lot of tests, a lot of things happen on the back end, but are we going to reach scale? And so this is great to hear. I appreciate your time today.
Excellent.
And,
very nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.